you don't fake conversation, you don't lie, because some people tend to, if they don't know something and they don't know the answer, they would lie about something just to kind of make an impression like they know stuff, but it's actually worse than saying,
I think
hey,
that's
I
what
don't
we
know.
do on this podcast, right?
Hey guys, this is the DNA Money Podcast, and today we want to talk about entrepreneurs and startups and how they react to the current economic environment. So as we talked about it in the couple of previous episodes, the inflation is rising. There's a risk of upcoming recession, and there's a lot of young businesses and startups that are trying to create a new product. They're trying to grow their revenues and they try to get more customers. However, obviously, when everyone is saying that the recession is coming and that you have to tighten up your budget, you have to save more money, it's a very interesting position for founders and for entrepreneurs to try to develop their business, because it's obviously getting way harder to do that.
And so we should say that the main thing that the startups and the entrepreneurs that are running those VC funded startups is their main goal is to grow, right? So it's interesting how they are going to react in the environment when everybody is cutting costs, but actual job of the startup founder is to ramp it up and increase awareness.
That's a good point. And so as you pointed out, the growth is usually stands over becoming profitable for especially for tech startups or the startups that that attract venture capital. And
anything that's R&D heavy, like research and development, building a new product, spreading awareness. In the beginning, you're probably not going to make much money, and especially if you're raising money, that's you're starting from below zero pretty much. So you gotta justify that, gotta grow fast. Just making profit is not gonna really cut it.
Right.
And it's an interesting time right now to think about it. How would you act if you had to both kind of conserve money but also create new products, spread awareness and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess to add to that, for traditional businesses, they are optimizing for profit, and they do have, or they follow the organic growth, right? So they want to start generating profits, reinvest those profits into the business, and then grow it organically. Again, with tech startups, or honestly, again, the startups that attract venture capital, the growth is number one goal here. But what's interesting in recessions, usually how it works is investors give advice to companies overall, I'm saying, right? On average, there might be some other, either extreme cases or outliers that follow other advice. But in general, it's to preserve capital and try to, break even at least. So to cover your costs. And for software businesses, I guess specifically, if we're talking about software businesses, for those investors were saying, okay, if you had a runway of let's say 18 months, now try to extend that to 36 months for 3 years basically, 36 years, and 36 months. And what's interesting is a lot of founders that operating a young company, they've never been through times like this, right? If you're below 30 to honestly even 35, probably never went through a real recession that affected you a lot.
Yeah, I mean 2020 for a brief second was kind of tough, and everybody was expecting the same thing to happen that's happening right now back then. But yeah, I would say
that lasted only for 3 to 4 months, right?
Yeah, still it was pretty tough, and a lot of companies failed too. I mean, everybody's brushing it off and forgets about it, but even the company I worked for, it failed. So
right. And why did you guys fail?
Well, we were mainly in construction, and we were a young startup growing very fast. And what happened was when the coronavirus started, they shut down everything, all the construction sites, and so we weren't able to work pretty much.
Got it. So was it affected you because specifically businesses that were operating or had to be done in person? Construction obviously is that one.
Yeah.
because that one was affected a lot by COVID.
Yeah, and once they shut down those construction sites, like all the contracts went to waste, and they couldn't recover really from that.
And from those contracts, were there any like clauses or terms that were saying that if anything happens, like unexpected, like COVID, like you would at least get some amount of contract covered?
I don't know about that. Probably not. So
yeah.
And if you're burning a lot of cash, we were also like at the moment that the lockdown started, we were trying to raise money, so it kind of coincided.
Gotcha.
We were kind of running out already, and we were about to raise money, and then like we don't have any revenue anymore. So
yeah. Honestly, I guess luck plays a quite, I don't want to say like important role here, but some role for sure. For example, again with my venture capital fund that I work with, some of our portfolio companies raised their round, right before this whole thing happened with inflation, with increasing interest rates, and with the downturn. So before and again the whole thing of luck played a role here, right? And some of the founders tried to postpone their fundraise. They would say something like, okay, we want to hit like this one more milestone and then we'll start the fundraising process. And obviously, and I'm like a proponent of doing things on time, like don't delay them, right? Try to do them as early as possible, not too early, but whenever it's the right timing to do that. And if you feel like it's the right time, you better do it now and like do not delay it. And of course, there are some cases when if you delay it, things actually may play out even better. But usually, procrastination is never a good thing or characteristic to have. So we have some portfolio companies that raised those rounds before the tough times began, and they're doing great now, right? They have budget for the next like 12 to 18 months. They may stretch that out to like 24 months. And it will still be fine. They'll be, and it gives you a really good competitive advantage, right? Because if you have cash and you can actually not fire people, but hire the talent that suddenly got available because there are so many layoffs happening across the industries. That could you could take advantage of that and like, expand the company further, and again take advantage of this tough times.
Yeah. Well, if you're in position to do that.
If you're in position, yes. And then there are some companies that were not so, like we have one company where a founder was postponing the fundraise, and because, for example, he wanted to give up less equity, and which in other words means like he was a little bit greedy. No, honestly, the terms that he was getting with the traction that he had at that time, they were great terms. For him as an entrepreneur, and way better than what he would be getting now. So he closed way later, but he only could close a fifth of what he wanted to raise. And so right now he has this. Yes, he has cash, but he has like a runway of like 6 or 8 months. He may like stretch it out till 12 months, but it'll be in survival mode, which is also tells you that again. Raise when it's the right time. Don't be too greedy. Just if people are offering you money, just take money and like start executing. Because the job, your job here is to grow the company, right? And if you grow the pie, you'll grow your own piece of the pie as well.
Any success stories of raising lately?
Raising later?
No, I mean after the recession started. Anybody?
So, with the company, if the company started before recession or after or during the recession?
Is anybody raising money now?
No, so people are raising money now, and yes, there are success stories. Absolutely, like there's still a lot of dry powder available, and by dry powder I mean the capital that sits in the funds that is still yet to be deployed and yet to be invested. So with those funds, like again, there's still a lot of dry powder, meaning funds are ready to invest, but a lot of them are actually kind of slowing it down or stopping investing for some period of time to see what's going to happen in the next like 3 to 4 months, because there's a lot of talks about, you know, recession that is coming, and then a lot of those VCs, venture capitalist investors, are looking at historical data, and like the you know, the experienced ones lived through like dot-com bubble, they lived through like great recession of 2008 2009, and like they know how to play the game, right? So they stop right now, they see what's going on in the industry, they kind of like watch it, and then I think when the right time hits, or when the right time arrives, they're going to start deploying more capital. Why they're doing it is because they want to economy, or this current conditions, to filter out some of the bad founders, you know, out of the system. They want, you know, the good ones to stay, and then they also want to invest at a lower valuations, meaning they'll get a 30% to, honestly, to a 50% discount.
Yeah. What do you see as are there more founders trying to raise money now, or is that the same?
I would say, to me, like, I have the same amount of calls with with founders. I would say that they're just way more negotiable now. You know, you can talk to them, and they even tell you, okay, we're open to negotiations. And they may even name you like a previous round's price, but then they'll tell you, okay, that, you know, we raised, let's say, on a convertible note with this valuation cap, but honestly, we're open to negotiations, meaning they're ready to invest either at the same valuation as it was, like, you know, months ago, or it could be even a down round, meaning we could invest at a lower valuation than the previous round.
So do you think it's gonna dry up though?
The
Like,
capital?
is there gonna be less founders eventually? I mean, in a hot economy, everybody's trying to found a company, money is available, everybody's rushing in.
Yeah.
Do you think it's gonna balance itself out by just the sheer amount of founders?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's a lot of like entrepreneurs that appeared over the past several years for the sake of being entrepreneurs, because it's cool, or you know, because they just had some idea that I wanted to work on, and as you said, like there was a lot of capital available, and it was relatively easy to raise that capital. But yes, now I'm you know, 100% sure that a lot of those guys will understand that, you know, maybe they don't have enough of like skin in the game, or they just don't want it bad enough, so will start looking for a regular job, or do something else. And it's not because they can't, you know, grow a company. It's more because they don't have enough of like motivation and like enough of desire to do that. And like true entrepreneurs and like true founders, they can, you know, go through all of those barriers, challenges, and because they want it really bad. And they usually want it really bad because of some certain events that happened in their life, or because of their certain beliefs and like values. So like you want to have founders that have like a chip on the shoulder, and they're ready to move forward. And
how do you fish for that chip? How do you know if they have it?
Yeah, I think the best way to understand that is look at their background and their experience. Right? And I spoke recently talking to a friend of mine. He's like, how do you guys invest? You know, how do you understand what company? How do you make bets on those companies? Right? Because it's so early, you don't have any data available. There's only projections that are honestly built on, it's like 80%, 90% are pure speculations.
Yeah.
So, and being in this business for almost 3 years, I would say that the single most important point that I realized is that you have to bet on people, and like the team is the most important thing when you're making an investment. I would pick team over a technology, I would say. And the reason is because there are so many unknowns, and there's so many variables that you can't predict, that you can't foresee, like this one that we're experiencing right now, the whole economic situation, that the only bet that you can make is on team, because you would know that the team can or has a really high chance of going through those challenges. And again, like that you can understand that by talking to a founder, and first of all, looking at their background, talking to people that the founder worked with before, you know, getting that feedback, looking for certain qualities, and then, but also really understand why they are doing what they're doing. You know, do they want to create this app or develop this technology because it's cool, because they, I don't know, found out about this a month ago, or was it because they thought about this idea for like 5 to 7 years, really, you know, with thinking through it, kind of preparing for it, and then arrived to a point where they were ready for this journey. So that would be a strong motivation, right? Another strong motivation would be honestly like something intimate or personal happened, to their family or like relatives or something, and then now they want to build this product that will help other people to combat that problem that their relatives or again family try to solve. You know, and then now they have this like strong motivation to start the business. Or it could be that honestly they even grew up really poor, or they didn't have like enough of funds to have to live a nice life, and they really want to help their parents, they really want to help their themselves, and they have that as a really strong motivation.
Is that a good motivation though?
I would say that it's a motivation, especially if they determine to build certain or they focus on a certain problem and then solve that problem. I think this is a good enough of motivation to like move them forward. It might be it may seem like a cliche one, rags to riches, like they didn't have money, now they want to, they really want to make it in life. But that's what I mean by having a chip on their shoulder as well.
Yeah. Do you think so? Right now, everybody is working from whatever. Like teams are distributed. Our founding teams are distributed too, or
Yeah, I would say I think it depends, right? For most, what I'm seeing now is yes, like a lot of startups they operate remotely, but we as investors like always encourage founders to bring their teams together, especially at an early stage, right? Because again, team is everything, and you can create that more of an even like close connection, and know the people that you work with very well, only if you guys work together, in the office, or at least like a couple of days a week, because you need to explore those people that you're working with. Like you need to understand their deep, even like their values, their beliefs, how to work together well. And I think your job as the CEO and as a leader to actually understand that and make sure that everything is balanced out and all people are treated well, they're properly motivated, incentivized, and again, in order to do that, you need to have the team in person. So, and I also think it depends on the nature of business, right? Like if it's a completely software product, then I think the remote work is bearable and it's fine. But if you guys are building like a hardware product, then you have to be in together in a lab or something like that.
Well, hardware depends on how you produce it, right? You can outsource it.
Yeah, you can, and you can do it in different in different even countries and spots in the world. For example, we have one company that is a pure that develops hardware, and it's a space technology company. When they were starting out, in order to save some capital, they were finding best talent in in other parts of the world. And for example, some people had access to like really good equipment for very cheap, right? Or had some network that they could find a cheap access to those labs or again facilities where they can develop the product. So let's say the headquarters and the founders of the company sat in the UK, but then they would outsource some of their or their head of engineering would build the actual product like in somewhere in Brazil or Argentina. And it's a good way to do it, especially in the beginning, to be capital efficient. But eventually, when they raised more funding, they moved the majority of the team from those areas to the UK, where they're renting now a big facility and working together.
I wonder how that works with visas and all that. Probably a mess.
Well, it depends on the countries because, and right now, honestly, like the UK is actually incentivizing people to go and work there on a permanent basis. Because a lot of European folks left the country after Brexit, and a lot of companies relocated their HQs to Europe, be it Germany, France, or Luxembourg. So the UK is actually seeking talented labor to come to them and like to stay there and work with their companies.
Cool. Okay, so anybody wants to move to UK, just get a job there.
Yeah, and I have a friend who's doing masters there now, and I think he told me that right now it's actually easier to get a job there than it was, a year ago even, or a couple of years ago, because the talent was fled. Now, it's another topic what's going on in the UK right now, right? With the Prime Minister.
I wonder what's going to happen to all that, but I'm not an expert in UK politics,
Yeah,
so
me
I'm not
neither.
gonna even guess what's going on there. I only read that he was resigning and like okay,
Whatever.
I guess something's gonna happen there, but I have no idea. So
Yeah, yeah. No, we'll see. We'll see. Um, but in general, yeah, I wanted to say that again, founders are gonna go through hard times now. Um, Good founders will obviously go through it and come out of this whole situation stronger, have a better plan, and have more experience, and we'll have less competitors because those are gonna die. Investors, so from my side, for example, I'm learning a lot from this whole situation as well, right? Like looking back at some of the valuations that we were looking or seeing 2 years ago, now it seems quite ridiculous, you know, given the traction that those companies had at that time and what valuations they were getting versus now. It's a quite big difference, I should say. So now I totally understand when I was talking to more experienced investors at other funds that have been through, like, again, dot-com bubble or through Great Recession, how they were saying that some of them stopped investing. They're like, shit, this valuations, they're getting ridiculous. Like, we can't, it just doesn't make sense to invest at those prices, right? And for someone who's never seen that or seen the downturn, they were kind of fine with that. So it's interesting to see how it kind of makes sense right now.
I think both approaches make sense, though. I mean, you want to be in the game, right? So if you're just starting out and you're getting your name out there, I mean,
if you're an emerging fund manager, you can't, you can't just sit and do nothing. Like, you have to build portfolio, you have to build traction. Now it's another question of what companies you pick. Those have to be, like, again, a great company or a great founder is a great founder.
Yeah.
They may take some cut in their future funding round because of recession, but in the end of the day, they're gonna grow the company and they're gonna make it. So, like, for example, Andreessen Horowitz investment strategy or is they're saying it doesn't matter what the entry point is, or it doesn't matter that much, or if it's a recession or not. Like, you just have to find great companies, great founders, and that'll do.
Yeah.
And but one of the examples that I wanted to provide, looking at, let's say, more of a late stage investment scene, is recently a big example of that was with Klarna. So Klarna is that buy now, pay later company or solution. They're based out of Sweden.
I never understood the concept, and why would I ever use it? I mean, the credit card is already kind of that if you want to screw up your life, and then there is this buy now, pay later, where what's the point?
Well, I guess they don't, and I mean, we briefly touched on it, right?
Yeah.
I guess there is no interest rate, which is no.
There is no interest rate.
There will be late fees.
Yeah, there are a bunch of fees and stuff like that, but for the consumer, there's no late payments, but you only get interest installments like in 4 months, but you also cannot really buy much with it. So it's like a shitty credit card where I don't know.
I think it does its job for the partners and companies they're working with, right? Like, anyways, they're driving more demand, or they're like getting customers to cross over that line and actually buy the product.
Yeah, I just don't understand why would those customers even go for it. Yeah.
I mean, I think honestly it just comes down to, well, if it's an easy access to having a good some good now or some product now, and you can pay later.
If your credit cards are maxed out already.
yeah, exactly. But at the same time, they do check your credit score.
They do, yeah.
Right.
But it's yeah. See, I just feel like it's getting people more into that, and there's no really reason for that to exist. What are you gonna buy that you're gonna pay off in 4 months? It's gonna be better for you to pay
I guess
in 4 months.
People even buying like a bunch of like even clothing or anything like
usually they advertise in like malls for clothing.
Yeah, like sneakers.
Even.
Food?
Yeah, you can buy food, I think.
Huh.
It's like ridiculous, right? So why would you even do it? You don't need those clothes. And pay installments for clothes.
Or like sneakers, yeah.
Why? I
mean
mean,
that,
people say that's. I heard the theory that free money is good, and basically Klarna gives you free money for 4 months, right? So like
mm,
it gives you whatever you're buying worth for 4 months for free, interest free, and you could invest your money at better percentages, but you're not gonna really do it, right?
wait, but you can't. Oh, like your own money that you could spend. Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's like you're playing this like a game where you're gonna maybe save or maybe produce cents,
yeah.
right? Like
But
literally not
yeah,
even a
I
dollar.
would
If like if you're
understand that if you would buy something like for millions of dollars and you would have to pay percentage on that.
yeah.
But you're buying Snickers,
Like
so like
let's say they're $250. You're gonna
yeah,
save that. Were you gonna do what? Like put it in
what? Nothing like
CD or
Tesla stock and wish it goes up.
yeah, but then you're
For
most likely gonna lose
Yeah,
some money.
for 4 months, of course, you
Yeah,
can also maybe over 10 years you would win.
yeah. No, and I know I definitely understand what you talk about. I know that some people, for example, would take advantage of like those zero interest credit cards. They give you offers for like 12 months, I think.
Yeah,
There's zero
12
interest.
months your interest.
Yeah, and then they would take that and then they would put it. I don't know, somehow get the money out and then put it on a regular like savings account,
Mm-hmm.
and in a year generate percent.
Of $1,000. So
Yes,
you're doing all
yeah.
that for
So you're doing like yes, you're getting like maybe $10 out of it. I don't know,
yeah.
in
Maybe
a
if
year.
you borrow $10,000, you're getting
And
100.
it doesn't make sense, or it's not worth it because you may actually fuck up your credit
Yeah.
score by not being able to put it back on time or forgetting about it,
Or
paying
just
it off.
just by the fact that you borrow those money.
It still affects your credit score.
Yeah, and you gotta repay it every month anyway, even if it's a zero interest. So, how much are you
Oh, true.
earning over a
True,
year?
yeah, you have
Like
to repay it anyway
over a year, you
on a
repaid it.
monthly basis.
I mean, so it's a waste of time and
Yeah,
it's a waste of credit score.
yeah, that's definitely not where you have to put your energy or
Yeah,
like
if
effort,
you could borrow like a significant amount of money for a year for no interest, whatever significant that's for people to define, but or if you could borrow like let's say this $10,000, but you for sure knew that even with paying it back within a year with 0% and all that, that you could deploy it somehow to make a profit, but the chances are whatever it is, it's a scam.
most likely. Yeah,
Yeah, and or some
or it's
crazy
very
stuff. Like
high risk.
probably a lot of people
investment.
did that and invested it in crypto and like
And now we're seeing those companies going bankrupt like every other week.
yeah. So don't do that. Don't be stupid. Don't do that. Even if it's like a sure bet, not bet. No bet is like 100% sure. So you could always lose those money or
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah, be smart. You guys be smart about your money, and I mean that comes to the topic of like being financially literate or personal
Yeah.
finance, like understanding the risks and all that.
so Klarna
Um,
doesn't make sense to me. Like what?
Yeah, and maybe that's why. So what I wanted to finish about Klarna is and say about Klarna is a year ago they raised their funding at a valuation of $45.5 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what's this? And I don't know if you know this already, but if you don't, guess what's the most recent valuation?
Well, I heard they went down like 10 times, right? So probably 4 billion.
I think it was at 4.5 to 6,
Mm-hmm.
around that.
Still a big company.
Yeah, but it's insane how much dilution they've been getting, and like
Mm-hmm.
all these people that and SoftBank, for example. So SoftBank is the biggest
Venture.
venture fund
Mhm.
and their late stage fund, and I guess to provide some context to the listeners, it's 100. The Vision Fund 1 was $100 billion,
Mm.
which is insane. Like thinking about how you have to deploy capital, and you have to deploy really large checks, like literally in hundreds of millions of dollars,
Yeah.
for you to for it to really make sense, for the returns to really make sense. So, and this was one of their big bets.
Mhm.
They've led like a $450 million round for Klarna,
Mm-hmm.
and they were diluted by 10 times or so. It's insane.
Well, Klarna. I don't know. It never made much sense to me.
Afterpay is
Especially if Klarna would go mainstream, that would just make everything cost more. That's it. So like from consumers paying interest rates, we would just go into sellers paying interest rates on like that 10% discount that they give to Klarna, and that would make just prices for everybody higher, and that's not good for anybody. What's good
Yeah.
is if everybody paid cash, but that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, definitely not in the U.S.
Or anywhere in the world. I mean, it shouldn't really be the case, but yeah, it's Klarna bad at macro, bad at micro. It's just
Yeah.
bad. I don't know. The product is not good.
I have you do you know Afterpay?
Yeah, same thing.
Same
Right?
thing, yes. And I think Afterpay even was founded after Klarna, I think.
Maybe.
But yeah, it's the same concept. And I honestly, like, I never used it, and I don't have any friends who use it. So like I can't provide like a critical feedback. But I wouldn't do it. I'd probably just put it in my credit card if I really needed it, like to buy that product right now.
Well, if you need something right now, like, well, do you really? I don't know. What are you buying that's you need so much?
Yes, because I feel like the things that you can buy with Klarna or Afterpay with their services, none of those are essential.
Yeah.
Like it's not
You couldn't buy a medical bill with Klarna.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's no like healthcare expenses. There's no like educational expenses that you could cover with Klarna.
Maybe
what
some
else?
education you could buy, but
Courses and
maybe
stuff.
you're not gonna pay it off in 4 months. Actually, courses. I mean, I'm a proponent of buying courses and stuff. So, except don't buy them for $5,000 from the YouTube gurus.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them are legit, but
Yeah.
most of them are full of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, identifying those courses, and I think we've touched on that briefly, like in the last episode as well, right? Like, I think when people are selling those courses, a really nice business model is to actually sell those, not for money, but for like a certain percentage in the future income that your client will generate over time, because in that way the interests are aligned better.
They are. It's just on some industries it's kind of hard to quantify. If you're if you're gonna get a regular job after that, after going through some kind of school, then that kind of makes sense. But I wouldn't even say that they are very aligned, because you know how this works is those boot camps and courses they're gonna make you sign that contract, and then after, so how the way they count the employment, those employment numbers are 99% of people get the job after this course. It's just any job. It doesn't have to be whatever they taught you. And
could be any job.
it could be any job, and then you're gonna get stuck paying this this debt. So it's pretty much borrowing money. So if that would be the case where you went out and got like the job you were promised at the money you were promised, and only then they would take money from. But that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
You'll get any job, they'll get all of your money, and
Well, honestly, I think that's yes. I didn't know that, but it makes sense, and it's. I can't say that's unfair.
well,
I mean, they provided service to you. You learned that, like you chose that service over learning it by yourself on a, by taking by watching like YouTube or Khan Academy or whatever like free resources there are. Because I still think if you actually try hard and like do well on those courses, at those boot camps, I mean, you have a higher chance of getting that job, actually getting the job that uses the skills that they taught you.
well,
right?
That would be the hope, right? I mean, if it's a well-established school, then yeah, I'd say probably proved itself that you are more likely in the future to get that job you were hoping in the first place. The data is not readily available though, so they will just make up kind of data that favors them.
Yeah.
and so kind of hard to argue for that. I'm still a proponent of pay it all upfront. Don't borrow on like the money you never made yet. Who knows how they're gonna collect it and all that stuff, and how it all gonna work out for you. What's gonna happen to your life? Just save up some money, pay it off upfront, or even better, just learn it yourself and save
Yeah,
some.
right. Because I think if you can't pay off at least, well, I don't want to say, I don't want to name numbers here, but yeah, if you don't feel, I would say if you don't feel confident at all, then probably just go with the courses, right? That are available, that are free or available online, where you can buy them for like $100 as opposed to like several thousand or tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and just see if you like it. See if you can maybe apply to the jobs before even you are qualified for them, to see if anybody is even gonna contact you, stuff like that. There's a lot of tricks and tips on finding jobs and changing careers that we can go into, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a whole world there, and there's a lot to learn about that too. So like, just learning the skill is not always enough. There is way more that goes into it than just learning the skill. You gotta be able to talk like those people do. You gotta be able to put in the information that they're looking for into your resume, and there is a lot to that. So.
Yeah, it's interesting how, when you find a job, it's like a skill as well. Even a separate skill to try to land a job.
I would even argue that
sell yourself probably is a better.
Yeah, I would even argue that going through interviews and those skills are better paid than the actual skill that you gotta present to them. Because
But I think that's only if you work for someone,
yeah,
right?
yeah, if you learn the skills for your own business or whatever, you better know that skill,
Yeah.
better perfect it,
Yeah.
and also other skill to be able to sell that skill, right? It can be however you think. I mean, you could be the best at programming, build the best apps, and never be able to sell it if you don't know how to.
Right. Yeah. Because I think also the common understanding is that a good product is gonna sell itself. Like, not, no, it's not.
Well, it will sell itself once you get some traction. So like the word of mouth is a very powerful tool.
Yeah, but you have to gain that initial traction as well.
You gotta get that initial boost in order for it to sell. So figure it out.
Yeah. Figure it out. Yeah. No, it's and I guess as since we're talking about the honestly, even like the sales skills and communications, I was actually last week I was doing like more research and looking at some of the like courses or even like coaches on speaking and communication as well, I guess. But for me, for example, I can, I can talk. I can talk to various people, but like I don't get how to say that. I can't get comfortable with a random person quickly enough, right? Like looking at some of my colleagues or friends, for example, they can crack a couple of jokes, do something else, use some of their tricks, and then now they have like a trust of the people or the person that they have conversation with, and it's a way, just the environment and the overall atmosphere is way more like friendly and like relaxed, and that's what you want to do and have, like when you meet new people, and like disarm them first, and then talk about, I don't know, business, talk about some of the
but
sales
everybody
and
does
stuff
it
like
different. It's just the frame that you set up for the conversation, right? So maybe those, like the friends of yours, are, it's just the way they do things. It doesn't have to be your way of doing things. So how do I describe it better?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own strategies of how to get
Like,
comfortable,
Yeah.
but
So
the faster you do it, the better usually, because it's just more efficient.
it is. It's just, if you're gonna try to fake it, people are gonna sense it. It's just gonna be, you gotta be kind of true to yourself.
Genuine, yeah.
Yeah, and people are just gonna put you in a bucket anyway, right? So like either they're gonna put you in a bucket of, oh, he's fishy, he's not being himself right now, or they're gonna put you in a bucket, or maybe he's just a serious person, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes, that's true. But it's like, yes, I'm not saying like be fake or like learn
yeah,
or
but
imitate others. But for example, like I mean, I'm pretty serious, but I'm not. I can be funny too.
yeah.
Like I can be nice, and but that happens usually when I have my guard off. When I'm like, if I know the person quite well, I saw them several times already, and things like that. But then like, how do you just? For me, if I could get comfortable with people faster, or like have my guard off like a little bit quicker, then it would help me. Like even in if I could do it in 2 conversations versus 5, let's say.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe it's different with different people too.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, because some people you don't really
You
want
don't-
to trust them, right?
Yeah, you don't want to take your guard off with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, with those people, yeah, you don't do it, and you can identify right whether the person is try to be fishy or is bullshitting you. But or maybe another important skill is like to be able to not control the conversation, but to guide the conversation
Yeah.
and direct it in a right way, unnoticeably. Like like don't change topics too rapidly or abruptly. And at the same time, talk about, let's say, what you think you would benefit from talking about, or you know what I'm trying to say. Or when you're selling, like how do you, like if you're selling, you want to talk about certain things or like touch on certain points.
you gotta set it up. You gotta set up the conversation.
Yeah.
You're gonna drive it and lead it into some narrow paths and
Right.
come out of there.
Yeah, and it has to be like a nice path, and you have to be like agile and like flexible with what path to take as the conversation goes, because you learn more of the person. So it's a lot of like little details, and I think that's definitely requires a lot of experience, and that experience you gain that every time you talk to a person from when you were a child to till now.
Yeah.
So, and that's why also unsurprisingly, like extroverts are way better at this than the introverts.
Yeah. I agree with that.
What's your strategy?
I don't have any strategy. I just trying to feel the vibes,
Yeah.
Well, maybe I should dive deeper into that. I just wasn't never really concerned with like, okay, how do I sell stuff? And
Well, I think that's you'll start thinking more about it once you just go out and start talking to customers and investors.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh, okay, how do I change the way I pitch here? Answering questions is another great skill. This is like probably one of the most important skills. How do you answer questions in a way where you don't bullshit people, you don't fake conversation, you don't lie? Because some people tend to, if they don't know something or they don't know the answer, they would lie about something just to kind of make an impression like they know stuff, but it's actually worse than saying,
I think
hey,
that's
I
what
don't
we
know.
do on this podcast, right?
Sometimes. Yeah, and just answering questions like in a confident manner also means a lot.
Yeah. Agree. Okay, let's finish with on this note. Let's finish this episode. See you guys the next episode. Like, subscribe, do all that. Thank
Provide
you.
us some feedback. We're always looking forward to seeing that. Thank you.